Hi, welcome to another class of phonology. Today we are going to talk about English consonants. More in detail, we are going to carry out two topics. The first is going to talk about the features of the English consonants, some features of the English consonants. And then I'm going to show you all the phonemes and the allophones that English consonants have. So let's start. First, I want to recap a little of the last video in which I explain you about the parameters to describe consonants. And as you remember, we have three parameters to describe consonants. The first parameter is the vocal fold position that divides the consonants into voiced and voiceless consonants. Then we have the parameter of place of articulation that is related of where is the consonant produced. And this parameter divides the consonants into bilabial, labiodental, dental, alveolar, postalveolar, palatal, velar, glottal, and labiovelar. And the third parameter to describe consonant is the manner of articulation. So it refers to how is the sound or consonant produced. And it divides the consonants into plosive, fricative, affricative, nasal, approximant, and lateral. Now, let's start with our first topic, that is features of the English consonant. All of this information is based on the book of Heinemann, and he proposed some features of the English consonants that are the energy of articulation, the consonant length, the voicing, the aspiration, and the release types of the consonants. So first, what is energy of articulation? Energy is the force we use to articulate sounds, the force we use to articulate, to produce the consonants. And it has to be with fortis and lenis sounds. Why? Because energy is related to the energy that is used at the moment of produce of the consonants, depending on the muscular force and breath force that we use. So what are the fortis and lenis sounds? Let's see. The fortis and lenis are types of the consonants. And on the one hand, the fortis are produced with more muscular effort, and they are always voiceless, while the lenis are produced with less muscular effort, and they are voiced, but in some cases they can become devoiced. So now that we know what are fortis and lenis, let me to show you the four groups that Heinemann proposed in this topic, that energy of articulation. He showed us the group of the fortis, he showed us the group of the lenis, the group of the nasals and the approximants that are together, and the last group of this glottal zone that he considered a special case. Yeah, because it becomes devoiced in some cases. Now, let's go to our second topic, that is consonant length. What is consonant length? The consonant length is the capacity of fortis consonants to shorten and lenis consonant to lengthen a nasal or a lateral consonant. Yeah, a nasal or a lateral consonant. So, lenis consonants can lengthen nasal consonants and lateral consonants, and fortis consonants can shorten nasal consonants and lateral consonants. So let's see these examples. In this example, benth, as you can see, there is a nasal sound, and next to it there is a fortis th. So this fortis sound will make that this nasal sound be shortened. As we see before, the fortis can shorten nasal and lateral sound. So in this case, this fortis is shorten this nasal sound, and this is shown by this diacritic that you are seeing right now, as you can see. And the same happens in this example, benth. But in this case, the consonant, the sound that is next to this nasal sound, is a lenis sound. And the lenis sound lengthens the nasal consonant. So, in this case, this lenis sound is lengthening this nasal sound, this nasal consonant, and it is shown by this diacritic, as you can see. The same happens here. In this case, this is a lateral sound L that is next to a Lenis sound. So it's the reason whereby this L is lengthened. Filed. Yeah, you see. But now, what happens here? Here we also have a nasal consonant next to a fortis P sound. But why there is no diacritic? It is because this diacritics just occur when they are in only one syllable. So as complex has two syllables, there is no necessity to put this diacritic, because the lengthening on the short or the shorten is not more noticeable. The same happens here in ending that has two syllables, and the nasal sound is next to a Lenis sound, so it has to be lengthened too. But as it has two syllables, it's not necessary to put the diacritic, since, as I said, the shorten or the lengthen is not more noticeable when the word has two syllables. Now, let's go to voicing. Voicing refers to the consonants that are voiced and voiceless. So in this topic, we are going to talk again about fortis and Lenis tones. In this topic, we have three rules to follow. The first rule is the voicing abstract. What are the abstract? The abstract are the plosives, the fricatives, and affricatives. And what says the rules? The rule says that these sounds are devoiced when they are before or after pauses, even more when they are before fortis consonants. So, let's see this example, this sentence. The dog broke that. First, this "the" is devoiced because it is after pauses. The same happens here. This "the" is before pauses, so it has to be devoiced. And in this case, the Lenis is next to a fortis sound, so this is because this Lenis sound is devoiced. And the same happens here. The D is devoiced because of the pause that is before it. Now we have the second rule is the devoicing approximants. It says that the approximants are devoiced when they are preceded by a fortis plosive in an accented syllable. So let's see, help. In this word, help, this is an approximant, and it is next to a fortis p sound. So this is the reason whereby it has to be devoiced. The same happens here in yogurt. This approximant is next to a fortis th. So this is the reason whereby this approximant is devoiced, because it is next to a fortis consonant. Now we have the third rule, that is the voicing of the glottal, of this glottal. As I said, this is a special case because it can become devoiced. But when it can become devoiced? It can become devoiced when it is between voiced sounds. So here, alcohol, as you can see, this glottal is between voiced sounds, so it's the reason whereby this glottal become voiced. Yeah, and the same happens here in a have, that this glottal is also between vowels that are always voiced, so this glottal becomes voiced too. Remember that this glottal is devoiced, but as you can see in these cases, between vowels, between voiced consonants, between voiced vowels, it can become voiced. Now, let's go to aspiration. What is aspiration? It is an interval between the release of a plosive and the voicing of a following vowel. Moreover, it is represented by this sign. As you can see, aspiration also has to be with forties sounds because of the breath force that we use at the moment of produce these consonants. Because of the muscular effort that we use at the moment of producing these consonants. Yeah, this is because the aspiration has to be with forties plosive sounds. And aspiration only occur with these three phonemes that are fortives and plosives. Yeah, they can become aspirated, as in this example: pen, or top, or king. So you see the muscular effort that I use at the moment of produce this 40 sound. Now, aspiration is divided into we have weak aspiration and we have strong aspiration. First, I'm going to explain you about strong aspiration. Strong aspiration appears as in the syllable that is accented, in the accented syllable, as here, pickpocket. And as you can see, this phoneme, this allophone p, is also has also the characteristics of this first allophone p, but in this case it doesn't have this sign because here there is only a weak aspiration. Pickpocket. So as you see, this is strong aspiration and weak aspiration. Strong aspiration just appears in the accented syllable, and weak aspiration appears in the non-accented syllables, and it doesn't. It's not necessary to put the sign in these consonants. Now we have release. Release has to be more with the allophonic variation and how a consonant is performed. So we have oral release, we also have non-audible release, glottal reinforcement, nasal release, and lateral release. Oral release. What is oral release? The oral release occurs when a plosive sound is next to a vowel or next to a semivowel. So the air that comes from our lungs can easily come out from our oral cavity. This is because it is called oral release. Because the air comes out from our mouth by our oral cavity. Yeah, as in this example. The top of the mountain. Yeah, and it is shown by this liaison, as you can see by this liaison. As here we have the plosive and here we have the vowel. Now it's time to see the nasal release. The nasal release occurs when a plosive is next to a nasal sound. So let's see these examples. It is bonnet. So you see there is a nasal sounds that affect these plosive sounds, making it nasal released. The same happens here in that name. Here we have a plosive sound, and next to it there is a nasal sound, and these nasal sounds make that this plosive became nasal released. Now it's time to see the lateral release. The lateral release just occurs when these two plosives are next to this lateral. sound. So let's see the examples. I did it badly. I did it badly. So this lateral release is shown by this liaison, and here we have the plosive V next to the lateral O, and here we have a lateral release. The same happens here. Currently, here we have the plosive, and next to it there is a lateral sound, and it is shown. This lateral release is shown by this liaison. Now it's time to see our second topic, that is English consonants in detail. In this topic, we are going to see all the phonemes and the allophones that English consonants have. So let's start with the plosive, sounds. We have 6 plosive sounds, as you can see. Let's see them more in detail. First, we have the phoneme V, that is voiced, lenis, bilabial, plosive, and it has 4 allophones. The first allophone is voiced. Why? Because this is between voiced sounds. As you can see, beautiful. In this case, it is next to a voiced semivowel. And here a vowel. It is also voiced because it is between voiced sounds, because as you know, all the vowels are voiced. A vowel, so it becomes voiced. Now we also have the allophone devoiced, that it occurs when this allophone V appears after or before pauses, or even more after 40 sounds. So here there is the 40th th, that is next to this voiced lenis bilabial plosive sounds. So this is the reason whereby it becomes the voiced, because it is at the presence of a 40 sound next to it. Then we have the non-audible allophone. It is because, as I said you before, this plosive makes that the realization of these sounds be stopped at the moment of the pronunciation of, for example, mouth is not fully realized. It is stopped at the moment of its realization. The same happens here. Tap bar. This p sound is stopped at the moment of its realization because of the presence of this plosive, and it's shown by this liaison. Then we have the nasal release. Yeah, we already talked about the nasal release, and here we have the nasal vom. This nasal affects the release of this sound. As you can see, vom, and it is shown by this liaison. Sorry. They also happens in this example. Crab meats. This nasal makes that this plosive b will become nasal released. Now we have the phoneme p that is voiceless, fortis, bilabial, and plosive. And it has 4 allophones, as you can see. The first is the aspirated allophone, and we already saw this in the slides before. So let's see in the example, pickpocket. This is aspirated because we use the muscular and the breath fort at the moment of the pronunciation, at the moment of the realization of the sound. Then we have the weakly aspirated. Weakly aspirated. This situation, this allophone appears when it is next to the allophone spot. A spot. Yeah, you see. Then the next allophone is the non-audible allophone. In this case, the presence of this plosive makes that this other plosive will be stopped at the moment of its realization. Popcorn. Yeah, you see, this plosive P is stopped at the moment of its realization. Finally, we have the allophone with nasal release. And in this, the same happens. There is the presence of a nasal sound. Sorry, there is a presence of a nasal sound next to a fortis or a plosive sound. In this case, the fortis and plosive p. What makes that these nasal sounds makes that these plosives will be nasal released. The same happens in the other example, kidnapping. You see, hypnotic. In the word hypnotic, where these nasal sounds make that these plosive sounds will be nasal released. Now we have the phoneme D, that is voiced, lenis, alveolar, and plosive. The. And this phoneme has 6 different realizations. This phoneme has 6 different allophones. The first allophone is the voiced. Why voiced? Because it is between voiced sounds, as in this example, headache or the views. The second allophone, the second realization, is the voiced because it is before or after pauses or even more before fortis consonants, as in this case, tap, dance. Now the third realization is the non-audible release because because of the presence of another plosive, this first plosive is stopped at the moment of its realization. As good day, or oath advice. You see, the first plosive is stopped at the moment of its realization. Then we have the dental allophone. It's dental because this allophone is next to a dental sound, as in this case, the th, round trip. So these dental sounds affect to this allophone th, making it a dental realization. Then we have the nasal release, and it occurs when this sound is next to a nasal sound. As you can see, blindness. What these nasal sounds affect the sounds, making it nasal released, or in kidnappers. And the final allophone is the post-alveolar, because next to it there is a post-alveolar sound, as in this example, drama, where these post-alveolar sounds affect the realization of these sounds, making it a post-alveolar realization. Now we have the phoneme th, which is voiceless, fortis, alveolar, and plosive, and it has 7 realizations, 7 different allophones. The first is the aspirate. Then we have the weakly aspirate. Then the non-audible release, the lateral with the lateral release, the dental release, and the post-alveolar release. Then we have the phoneme K that has 5 different realizations, 5 different allophones. Here, here there is the aspirated realization. Here there is the weakly aspirated. Here there is the non-audible the non-audible released. Then we have the pre-verbal and the post-verbal allophones. Then in the case of the phoneme gr, that is voiced, lennis, and velar, we have 5 allophones, 5 different realizations. In the first case, we have a voiced realization. In the second, we have a devoiced realization. In the third case, we have an allophone with non-audible release. In the fourth case, we have a nasal release. And in the final allophone, we have a post pre-verbal release. Now here we have the fricatives. In the fricatives, we have 8 consonants, 8 sounds. And here we have the first phoneme is the v, which is voiced, lennis, labiodental, and fricative. And it has 2 allophones, as you can see. The first is voiced, and the second is voiced. Van, view, violin, and in the second have to, both. It is the voice because, as you know, there is the presence of a fortis before this sound. And in this case, it is voiced because it is next to or between voiced sound. As in this case, van or view that are next to vowels, and vowels are always voiced. So these vowels make that these sounds becomes voiced. Now we have the phoneme f, that is voiceless, fortis, labiodental, and fricative, and it doesn't have any allophone. It has the same case of this other sound, which is voiceless, fortis, dental, fricative, and it also doesn't have any allophone. Then we have this other sound that is voiced, lennis, alveolar, and fricative. And it has 2 allophones, the voiced and the devoiced. Then the other phoneme that is this sound, as you can see, that is voiceless, fortis, alveolar, and fricative. And the last phoneme that is represented by this sound, that is voiceless, fortis, palatal, alveolar, and fricative. These sounds don't have they don't have another realization. They don't have allophonic realization. They don't have allophones, so they don't have another realization. Then we have this sound that is voiced, lennis, dental, and fricative, and it has 2 allophones, so 2 realizations. The first is voiced and the second is devoiced. Then we have the final phoneme, that is glottal, which is voiceless, fortis, alveolar, and fricative. And it also has 2 realizations, 2 allophones. The first is voiced and the second is devoiced. Why is voiced? Because it is between voiced sounds, between voiced consonants, and it is devoiced because it is before a fortis sound or no. Yeah, this is devoiced because it is before fortis sounds, as in this case. What happened? Here is the fortis, and here is this sound, which is devoiced because of the presence of this fortis. Now let's go with the affricate sounds. In English, we only have 3 affricate sounds, and these are the phonemes. The first phoneme is Z, which has 2 allophones, and the first is voiced and the second is devoiced. The second phoneme is this sound, which also has two allophones, the voiced and the unvoiced. Then the third phoneme is this, which appears as in track, in trumpet. It doesn't have allophones, so it doesn't have other realizations. And the last phoneme, the last sound in this category of the affricates is this, which appears in words as nature or kitchen, and it doesn't have allophones too. It just have this phoneme. It just have one realization. Now let's go to the nasals. In the nasals, in English, we have three nasal sounds, three phonemes, which are the first is it, is this, it is voiced, bilabial and nasal, and it has three allophones. It has three realizations. The first realization is voiced. The second realization is slightly devoiced, and the third is labiodental. Now, in the case of this phoneme that is voiced, alveolar, and nasal, it also have five allophones, five different realizations. The first is a voiced, as you know, because it is between or before voiced sounds, as in this case nail, 9. This nasal is next to a voiced cone vowel. Then the other realization is the devoiced. It is slightly devoiced. And the third is the dental, because it is dental because next to it there is a dental consonant, a dental sound, as in this case 10th or minth. So the presence of these dental sounds affect the realization of this nasal, becoming it in a dental sound, dental realist. Then we have the postalveolar, as in the case of unreal, and the labiodental in the case of rainfall or novel. Finally, we have this phoneme voiced, velar, and nasal, which has two different allophones. The first is preverbal and the second is postverbal. Now here we have the lateral sounds. The lateral sounds are just represented by Y phoneme, that is this, the L, that is voiced, alveolar, and lateral, and it has five different realizations, so it has five allophones. The first is the clear allophone, because it is before vowels, as you can see, loop, lead, or lick. The second allophone is the dark allophone, because it goes before consonants or pauses, or even more before the approximants of this approximant, as in this example, salt or salt water. And the third allophone is the devoiced. It is devoiced because it is next to a plosive, as in this case a plot or airplane. Then we have the dental allophone, because it is next to a dental sound, as in this case. So these dental sounds affect the realization of these lateral sounds, making it dental, as in the case of melt or welt. Then the final allophone is the postalveolar, as you can see in this example, yearly. It is postalveolar because it is next to a postalveolar sound, as in this case. Now, finally, we have the approximants. The approximants, the approximants are just three phonemes, as you can see. The first is this, the voiced postalveolar, which has four different realizations, which has four different allophones. The first allophone is the approximants because it is mainly before and between vowels, as you can see, car or arise. The second allophone, which is the voiced fricative, because it is before the sound the, because it goes after this sound the. This is because it is called the allophone voiced fricative. Then we have the allophone voiceless fricative, because it especially goes after 40s plosives, as in this case price, trader. And fine, the last allophone is the alveolar. The alveolar, because it goes before an alveolar consonant, as in this case thos or thumb. Now we have this phoneme that is voiced, palatal, and semivowel, and it only has two allophones, two different realizations. The first is voiced and the second is devoiced. The first is voiced because, as you know, it goes mainly before or and between vowels. Yes, you, or yer. And the second is devoiced because as you know, there is a fortis before it, so this is the reason whereby this become devoiced, because of the presence of a fortis before it. Then the final approximant is this, the voiced velarized bilabial semivowel approximant, which also has two allophones or two different realizations. The first is the voiced and the second is the voice. So I hope you can enjoy this class. See you in another video. Bye bye.